This PowerPoint is over CAA number 3 for D64. This is the historical timeline. First, we're going to First, I will be going over important laws and regulations. The Civil Rights Act of 1964, which banned discrimination against race, sex, and national origin in public facilities, along with the ESEA, which offered a new grant to districts serving low-income students, federal grants for textbooks and library books, funding for special education centers, and scholarships for low-income college students. Additionally, the law provided federal grants to state educational agencies to improve the quality of elementary and secondary education, has been instrumental in improving the schooling of ELLs. These two legislations, which came under the Great Society reforms the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001. The ESEA was replaced by this act in 2001. The major focus of the No Child Left Behind Act is to close student achievement gaps by providing all children with fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education. The U.S. Department of Education emphasizes 4 pillars within this bill. The first is accountability to ensure those students who are disadvantaged achieve academic proficiency. The second is flexibility, which allows school districts flexibility in how they use federal education The Texas Administrative Code, or TAC. With the Texas Administrative Code, Chapter 74.4b, school districts are required to provide intensive and ongoing foundational second language acquisition instructions to ELLs in grade 3 or higher, who are at the beginning or intermediate levels of English language proficiency in listening, speaking, reading, and/or writing, as determined by the state's English language proficiency assessment system. These ELLs require focused, targeted, and systematic second language acquisition instruction. Important cases that impacted the course of ELL learning. Myers versus Nebraska in 1923. In this case, the Supreme Court invalidated a Nebraska law banning the teaching of foreign languages to school children, finding that the law violated the 14th Amendment's Due Process Clause. In this case, Robert Meyer, a teacher at Zion Parochial School, was charged with violating the state law by teaching German to a student. Nebraska claimed that the law was a proper means to promote civic development by inhibiting training and education of the immature in foreign tongues and ideals before they could learn English and acquire American ideals. The court Farrington versus Tokushige, 1927. In Hawaii in 1927, this case of Farrington versus Tokushige, the court offered further protections of after-school community language programs after attempts by education authorities to put restrictions on Japanese and Chinese heritage language programs. The Hawaiian legislature had passed a law strictly regulating hours, textbooks, and curriculum of schools that taught the native language of the students. In striking down this law, the court was indicating that this amount of regulation of private schools was unreasonable. Steinbeck versus Mohawk K. Kokpo in 1947. In this case, it was decided on the basis of Farrington and also had more to do with parents' rights in directing the education of their children than with language rights. When Germany and later Japan became war enemies of the United States, the number of U.S. schools that provided instruction in these languages dropped dramatically, largely because of fears by members of these communities that such instruction would lead to others to question their loyalty to the United States. The legacy of these cases is that minority communities the United States versus Texas in 1971. In November of 1970, Judge Justice ordered the Texas Education Agency, TEA, to assume responsibility for desegregating Texas public schools. The ruling in the United States versus Texas, also referred to as Civil Order 5281, applied to the entire Texas public school system, affecting over 2.5 million children. This order had far-reaching effects in Texas public school systems and required scrutiny of transfers between districts, prohibited discrimination in extracurricular activities and personal practices, Lau versus Nichols in 1974. This case focused on the failure of the San Francisco school system to provide English language instructions to approximately 1,800 students of Chinese ancestry who did not speak English, or to provide them with other adequate instructional procedures, denying them a meaningful opportunity to participate in the public educational program and thus violating the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which banned discrimination based on the grounds of race, color, or national origin in any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. And Serna versus Portales in 1974. In this case, the appellees accused Portales of depriving them of their right to equal protection of the law. The trial court had ordered the Portales schools to submit a plan for corrective action within 90 days. The appellees then filed a motion for hearing to hear their objections to the Portales plan and to introduce their own proposed bilingual bicultural program. After reviewing both parties' programs, the trial court entered final judgment, which included all students in grades 1 through 3 receive 60 minutes per Last but not least, we have the case of Aspira versus New York in 1975. In 1972, Aspira, a community-based Hispanic educational advocacy group, sued the Board of Education of the City of New York. Aspira claimed that, as a result of language barriers, many Puerto Rican students of limited English proficiency were prevented from fully participating in the instructional programs of the public schools. The suit resulted in a negotiated consent decree in which the board agreed to begin to provide a transitional bilingual instructional program to LEP children.